Today, we're excited to introduce Affyief Chaudhry, a passionate and driven AI, machine learning, and deep learning enthusiast.
As humans, we can park the car. The AI can just travel to 10 meters in the front or 10 meters in the back.
Currently pursuing a master's degree in electromobility at FAU Erlangen-Nürnberg, Affyief is deeply committed to advancing the field of autonomous driving through a strong foundation in science and mathematics.
The reason they don't just have cameras on the outside monitoring the road and the sides and the conditions, but they also have a camera focused on you right now, recording you, is the fact driver is supposed to be a very cautious backup system at all times.
Join us on the podcast to learn more about Affyief Chaudhry's journey and his insights into the future of AI and autonomous driving.
Be all that you can be. I think that is a very simple line that everybody should follow in their life.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Zengit. As you guys are all aware, what our motive is, where great minds meet a bright future and they connect together to explore a lot of realms, many other opportunities related to science and engineering. So as promised, we have another exciting guest with us today who is amazing, who is just the expert of the technology that everyone runs around. So today we have Dr. Affyief with us. Dr. Affyief is a professional who is currently pursuing his degree in electromobility, where he's actually trying to drive science and mathematics with the strong foundation of autonomous knowledge. Before I let Affyief introduce himself, we do have our co-host, Dr. Nadir. You guys must have seen his podcast. So he's a renowned professor from University of California. Dr. Nadir, welcome on our podcast. And then obviously
Hello.
Our co-host, hello, we have Rida also. So let's begin. I cannot wait to initiate this interesting conversation and the session that we are going to have today. Dr. Affyief, over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Just a little correction in the start. I'm not a doctor yet.
Yeah,
I'm working on it. Yeah.
I noticed this,
I
but I couldn't correct it. Thank you so much.
yeah.
I will.
I really hope to be one just in a few years, but not yet. So
Inshallah.
just a fee for the moment.
Okay.
I think he's
Yeah,
the first to be doctor who says that I'm not a doctor yet. Usually when they get enrolled, they could start calling themselves doctor.
No, not at all, not at all.
Hats
But
off
okay.
to your honesty.
Well, working on it, and I think now that you've mentioned it, it motivates me more to work on it faster and be one as soon as possible. So in future podcast, I can probably claim that I am one.
So we can say we have our future doctor with us.
Potential doctor, yeah, fingers crossed for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, hopefully, inshallah.
Well, getting on with the introduction, born and raised mostly in Karachi, but I was fortunate that when I was just 2.5 years old, my dad, he was working in the airline, so he got posted to Frankfurt. He was basically posted as the manager for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So most of my earlier upbringing, most of my earlier memories are of Germany, which I think had a profound impact. We came here in around 93, once I was like 2.5 years old, stayed here for about 5-6 years, then went back. Most of my earlier schooling is of Karachi Public School and College. You guys might be knowing it, but it's a very good school in Karachi. And when I grew up again, 2005, we again moved to Germany, same city, again lived here for about 5-6 years. So that is one of the reasons that Germany is, being a Pakistani, Germany is quite close to my heart. And I have and some experience of growing up here, which made a profound impact on my personality. For my bachelor's, I went to NUST and I chose mechatronics again. I was fortunate enough because once you try to get into NUST, you give them a list of preferences of your what you want to study, and depending on your merit, you get one of them, you get assigned one of them. So I chose mechatronics as my first choice. Mechatronics is essentially robotics, an amalgamation of both electronics and mechanical engineering. So I chose that as my first choice, and I was fortunate enough that I got assigned my first choice. At that time, mechatronics was quite a boom in Pakistan, and especially NUST, it was quite famous because they had a very hands-on approach towards mechatronics, making their undergrads work on the systems, just not just doing theoretical classes and doing lectures and all that. So that was, I think, a wonderful experience, which I think was better if I would have got just simple electrical or mechanical. So that hands-on experience really pushed me towards this interest in robotics, and building on that as the AI boom came in, more of interest in towards robotics, towards AI and robotics. And essentially, one of my core interests is HMI, which is human machine interaction, and then
Mm-hmm.
HRI, which is human robot interaction, which is a subfield within HMI. And secondly, while growing up, one of my core hobby, one of my core interests, one of my core passion has always remained cars. So I've always studied cars. I've always liked cars so much. So building up on that, one of my research interests is also in autonomous driving, semi-autonomous driving, basically autopilots. The normal word, the common term for that is the autopilots, which we are seeing in most of the vehicle nowadays. Building
Mm-hmm.
upon that, for my masters, because as I said, having a very close relation to Germany, and Germany being one of the world leaders in cars all over the world, German cars are quite famous, must be knowing. So I had, like, for some years, I had it in my mind that if I do masters, I will do it from Germany. Maybe that was one of the reasons that I did not opt for masters in Pakistan right away. I worked for a few years in the industry, and as soon as I got a chance, I came to Germany for my masters. So I chose electromobility, which is an up and emerging field. Also, it is a new masters even in Germany. It has been introduced for like about 3 years or so. So
Mm-hmm.
I chose electromobility, and within that, you have to choose your specializations. So my specialization is AI and autonomous driving, along with a sub-specialization in e-powertrain, electric powertrain, like what moves the electric car and how it navigates. So these two basic terms.
Okay, great, Tata. Thank you so much for your brief introduction. And while you were explaining all of these things, in back of my mind, I was hoping that the Transformer movie is going to be real pretty soon with all the expertise that you are trying to get. So great to have you here. So, Dr. Affyief, where exactly do you live in Germany? In which city, and how do you find it? Like, I have heard it from you that Germany is like your pretty close to your heart, being a Pakistani staying over there. So, how's been your experience as a student over there, and how's lifestyle there?
Throughout my earlier life when we lived here, we lived in Frankfurt because that is hub of all of the transportation, all of the airlines.
Yeah.
It has one of the biggest airports in the world. It is one of the most busiest and well-connected places in the world. And along with that, it is also a financial capital of Europe, with the headquarters of the European Bank headquartered there of the European Union. I grew up there, a very vibrant city, a very international city. Being Pakistanis, it has a very sizable population of expatriate Pakistanis over there. So that city shaped up my earlier experiences. But while I'm studying right now, I am based in Nuremberg, which is almost in the south of Germany in Bavaria. But again, it is very close to my heart, as you must have heard about BMW, that is Bavarian Motor Works, again headquartered in Bavaria in Munich, which is quite close by. And Stuttgart is also, Stuttgart can be called, is normally called the Mecca of cars. So that's also not very far away, about 1.5, about 2 hours by train. So this region is also very car centric and very research technologically, very a technological center of research in almost complete Europe. So right now in Nuremberg, you must have, everybody has almost heard about the Nuremberg trials, about the Nuremberg laws, Nuremberg decrees, World War II. So a very traditional city, a very historically rich city, and a very, very traditional center of Bavarian culture. So it's wonderful staying here, and I highly recommend anybody who wants to visit, he must visit Nuremberg also.
Definitely. We would like to get tips from you, like how to, as a student or as a professional, we can, seek opportunities over there. So yeah, it's great to hear that.
As someone who's not as brilliant and intelligent.
Yeah.
So Affyief, the little that I've heard about you, I think you're the next Elon Musk in making, but a more intelligent one, I would say. Also, can you share with the audience that what was exactly that motivated you to pursue mechatronics? We see multiple fields of engineering, But why mechatronics? Because in Pakistan, we do know that it's not a very flourishing career opportunity. It does not offer you very flourishing career opportunities here in Pakistan. So taking up that risk and spending those 4 years doing bachelor's in mechatronics, what was exactly that motivated you in finding yourself towards this field?
Of course, first of all, I would start by saying I think I might be more of an anti-Elon Musk because I have not that optimistic views on the future of AI as Elon Musk has, as he normally touts all over social media that AI is going to take over the world and he is seeing frightful things and the potential of AI. I do not have that much. I disagree on a lot of topics specific to the potential of AI in the upcoming decades. And maybe we can discuss that later in the podcast also. Coming over to your actual question, once I was in the final year of intermediate, I actually talked to a lot of people who were currently studying in NUST and other universities in respective fields that they were studying. So the options I had at that time was there was no AI engineering, or at least 2010-11, and the start of that time, AI was not even introduced in Pakistan. So the options I had at that time was mechanical, electrical, mechatronics, computer engineering, all of the legacy engineering fields that you mostly see. One of the most common thing I encountered in all of the traditional electrical and mechanical was lots of theoretical studying, lots of lectures, lots of assignments, but very, very less practical work, very, very less actual engineering work. What I heard across the board from everybody doing mechatronics, one of the very common thing was it's fun, or if I say in Urdu, everybody said maze ka hai. So it's fun. And second was that they make you work. They make you work on circuits. Actually, where I studied, they hold the NERC, the National Engineering Robotics Competition, which is the biggest robotic competition in Pakistan. No other university or college organizes it at the level. If you might have heard, the National Robotics Lab, NCRA, is also headquartered at the Mechatronics Department of NUST, which is Pakistan's most advanced and competent robotics lab. So in hindsight, I would say it was a very good decision while comparing all of the different. I'm not saying electrical is not fun. I'm not saying mechanical is not fun. I don't want anybody to cancel me on the internet for saying that. All of these are also fun, but just for me, I think that during a 4-year bachelor's course, the amount of actual practical work they make you do while studying a 4-year complete Bachelor's of Engineering program is unparalleled, unmatched in any other programs within NUST or all over the country in other universities also. I think that was one of the primary motivation. I have always been tinkering with my hands as a child, making like one of the, I think the obvious fate of each one of my toys used to be that I used to open it up, take it apart, and reassemble it in some form or make a Frankenstein sort of a thing using different parts. So anybody who has that sort of motivation, who like to work with the hands, who like to work on machines, I would say mechatronics is a very good opportunity for them to work on a field that is interdisciplinary, that will make you study both electronics and mechanical, which I won't say is the future, which I would say is the present. Just studying mechanical, just studying electrical, I think is quite a bit outdated if we say it in terms of the industry. And the explanation of that is look around you, all of the appliances you're using, all of the tools that you are using, your everyday devices, your appliances, your cars, your motorcycles, your cell phones, all of them have become heavily interdisciplinary. They have electrical components, they have mechanical components. So it's very hard for us to find something in the real world today that is just dependent on one subfield or just one discipline. It is an interdisciplinary world, it's an interdisciplinary society. So what I would recommend everybody is that one, they should opt for an interdisciplinary field. If they are not, if they are focusing on a simple one discipline, at least they should choose another discipline as their minor. That is the minimum that I would suggest everyone should do.
Based on your answer, with someone having done specialization in AI, what makes you anti-AI and what makes you say that the future is not AI? I mean, what is there that we don't know? Like, if I
Okay.
see myself, I think that in a few years from now, maybe professionally I'll be replaceable by AI. So is there any hope for people
Definitely.
like us?
Okay, I would say there are two aspects or two parts to your question. What makes me anti-AI, and what the second is the more important part, and we will focus more on that, is the aura that is being built around that your job will be replaced by AI. I won't say I'm anti-AI. I am definitely against the AI persona that is being built in the media right now. There are quite a few examples for it. Like if I say, you must be knowing about Bard, the ChatGPT competitor. ChatGPT is from OpenAI. Bard is the ChatGPT competitor, which was introduced by Google. For example, when they were demoing it, I think Google's Vice President Susie Chong, a very famous AI engineer herself, she demoed it for CBS. And for example, she made she made Bard generate a poem, a very nice poem, and a very nice short story in which it came up with very nice characters, and uh, they demoed it to have almost human-like capabilities. So I would say that is not essentially the correct representation of present AI technology, or the AI technology that is upcoming in the near future. I would say to anyone listening to this that if you want to do a quick experiment, you can do it. Go to Bard, go to AI, go to the LLM ChatGPT model of your choice, and make them write something exhaustive. For example, one of my favorite series as growing up has been Harry Potter. If you make ChatGPT write a book the size of Harry Potter, this much book, you will see it goes very illogical, very fast. Writing something 2 pages, 3 pages, 10 pages, you'll see, wow, this is superhuman. This is out of this world. I'm going to be replaced. Definitely not. Make it write something exhaustive. Make it write something a little bit longer in length, and you will see how wrong it goes, how illogical it becomes. The favorite analogy, one of my favorite AI professors here is Michael Kohlhase, he's also a professor at CMU, Carnegie Mellon, USA, very qualified person. He used to give us a very simple example that imagine you are in a parking lot, you are sitting in your car and you have to park your car, and I tell you to close your eyes. The first 10 meters you can drive with your eyes closed, not a problem. It is the actual parking of the car in the corner parking slot, which is the most difficult task. You can draw on this analogy, as humans, we can park the car. The AI can just travel to 10 meters in the front or 10 meters in the back as of now. It is just not possible of replacing an average human, even in intelligent task, or even in very all of these generative tasks, all of these creative tasks, being a songwriter, being a painter, being a poet, being a writer. AI can never be as professional as it is made out to be. At least presently, it's not as good. Otherwise,
True.
it would have already replaced all of them. It is not as good. It is not going to be as good. Even if we get out of the realm of creativity and go in the realm of pure engineering. I think Dr. Nader would second me on this. Right now, AI is very good at writing skeletal code. If you are coding in Python, you're coding in C, C Sharp, or any of your language of choice, and you ask AI to write a program, it is very good at giving you a skeleton code, a basic code, and you can work further on it. But if you give it a really complicated programming challenge, it will most probably run into problems. And one of the things which I have myself experimented in, if it encounters a problem, it will try to solve it. And if it can't, it will revert back to the original solution. So an engineer's analogy for this would be, it would be stuck in a local minimum, and it is very difficult for it to get out of a local minimum and go to a global minimum. So once it gets stuck, it just runs around in circles. This is the state of most of the latest generative large language models or AI algorithms right now. If even programming or a hardcore skill would have been that easy for an AI model, you would not be seeing programmers at Google, you won't be seeing programmers at Apple, you won't be seeing any programmer left at Tesla. The fact that most of the workforce at these huge companies is still humans is a testament to the fact that at present, AI is not threatening humans as much as it is made out to be. And especially in the media, all of the dystopian future that is made out to be that AI will make some sort of a dystopian society, I highly, highly I don't think that's going to be possible, at least for a long time to come.
Yes, I agree with
Carry
you that it gives you a structure for a program, and then you have to look at it, because usually you cannot rely on that to sell something or have something very important control some power plant or yeah, I agree with you on that 100%. In terms of dystopian future, it's really hard to say. Bill Gates used to say 64 kilobytes of memory is enough, and this is the most richest and smart person who worked on writing code for operating system. So it's hard to say. I would say we have a guarded future about AI, and it's really hard to predict. But you're absolutely right. Elon Musk 2 years ago says we will have level for autonomous vehicles and beyond. We're not even there yet. Although I have to say, the car that I'm driving right now has an excellent automatic parking. They are beyond. I have had automatic parking in the past, but this is hitting the ball out of the park. So they're making progress, but it would take a while. I was going to ask you two questions, one non-technical, one technical. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Please go ahead.
So the future for you, this is a non-technical one, is to come back to Pakistan and marry a nice Pakistani girl and develop the knowledge that you have in Pakistan, or stay in Germany. And then I'll ask you the second one. Elon Musk, since you brought it up, believes in having cameras to control autonomous vehicles, and everybody else, including the companies around you in Bavaria, believe in sensor fusion of LiDAR and so on, which I actually think it's a great idea. So do you think he's going to eat his words like he's done in the past regarding having cameras control autonomous vehicles? So these are my questions to you. Thank you.
Of course, I would love to answer both of your questions, but before that, I would like to address one statement that you made, that you are right now driving in a car which has an excellent self-park capability, which is beyond your expectations, and because it exactly correlates with the earlier example I gave about parking of humans versus AI. Dr. Nader, a quick caveat: if your car crashes itself while parking, does the liabilities remains on the driver, or would the company make that AI parking assistive algorithm liable for the crash? What do you think will happen there?
So I haven't read the fine lines on my contract with Tesla or my insurance company. I can tell you this, that they're monitoring me because they have a camera inside this car, and this is really bizarre. If I'm looking at my phone, it flashes on my screen that pay attention to the driving, because the camera is watching me looking at my phone. Even the FSD works really well, but it's
exactly
FSD means full system driving, or full driving,
fully self-driving.
Full self-driving, because it combines with the map and the turns. It's just I would say it's level 3.5, in my opinion, not quite level 4, of course. But I think the liabilities is probably on me, because these companies have huge documentations about that. They're completely not responsible for anything that happens to you. And, Tesla is fighting multiple court battles regarding FSD causing accidents, causing major problems. It was in the news actually yesterday. But it's the future that is going to, I would think, if all cars are communicating with each other, like automobile to automobile and automobile to infrastructure communication, some of these issues may be resolved. Not completely resolved, but it will be resolved. The time will tell. The predictions have been wrong, and it will continue to be wrong. But at some point, it will reach a closure, in my personal opinion.
Well, of course, right now in the industry, the two best top-of-the-line state-of-the-art models is one is Tesla Autopilot. The second one is Mercedes Pilot Drive. Now, Tesla Autopilot, because you are currently traveling in a Tesla, I presume, is marketed as an FSD, a fully self-driving system. However, if you look at the classification of autonomous systems, that should correlate with a level 5 parking system, which is truly autonomous, truly FSD. However, it is classified and sold as a level 3 system. The reason they don't just have cameras on the outside monitoring the road and the sides and the conditions, but they also have a camera focused on you right now, recording you, is the fact that in level 3, driver is supposed to be a very cautious backup system at all times, and ultimately the liability does fall on you. I would recommend you also read the terms and conditions whenever you get the time, because the driver is 100% liable for anything that happens, not the self-driving system and ultimately not the company. That is my exact argument for all of the future that is sold. AI would truly become autonomous. AI would truly become capable as it is touted to be once we are able to shift the liability to the AI. Once we can legally find that AI algorithm, that AI system, or that AI entity, AI agent liable for its actions, that is the day I would truly consider a system autonomous. Beyond that, until we are finding humans liable, I would never agree that the AI system is truly autonomous or is truly self-reliant, or whatever the keywords are that are there. I think they are mostly marketing terms which are touted just to make people more interested in it. And but till the time humans are liable for the actions that the AI agent is doing, we cannot declare them truly autonomous. That would be my definition or my criteria, that with whom does the liability rest for the actions of the AI agent.
Positive Nation impacts 21 million lives around the world.
You're clear to take off.
By doing positive acts of kindness around the
Every
world.
little gesture, every heartfelt plea builds a future where every soul is free. From every corner of the earth to every single face, we're spreading kindness, leaving a loving trace. We're Positive Nation, where hope lights the way. With 7 billion people, we'll rise every day. Through positive acts of kindness, let our voices sing. We're creating a world where positivity reigns. When the road is long and the night is cold, hold on to the love, let your heart be bold. In every act of kindness, in every care.
Join us and be a part of the Positive Nation community.
We're Positive Nation, where hope lights the way. With 7 billion people, we'll rise every day.
If it's okay, we would come over to the other two questions that you asked. The
Yes, go
non-technical,
ahead.
very interesting question. Well, for the present, I will have to come back to Pakistan because I'll have to work with the company that I was working in. So I will be joining it again after my education, and fingers crossed that I can continue the research that I am currently doing. Coming over to your second very interesting question regarding cameras versus a sensor fusion infused approach towards self-driving. I think what needs to be clarified here is when we say camera, most of the general public understands a camera just to be a tool that gets a vision-based input of the surroundings. Although we fail to understand that even in very simple devices such as Microsoft Kinect or Nintendo Wii, that uses an RGBD camera, which also assesses the depth. So the current cameras on the market should understand that if anybody is interested, you should definitely check out the cameras that are currently being used in satellites and which are used to, for example, precision agriculture or crop monitoring. The cameras that are mounted on these satellites, they are cameras, they're not sensors, and they can take pictures in about 26 different spectrums and capture all of that image while being a camera. So I think the difference between a mainstream camera and a sensor fused approach is itself getting very blurry because so much sensor fusion is being integrated into the camera itself. The camera sensor itself is getting evolved so much that it is incorporating much more different. It is capable of capturing much more data than a simple camera sensor would be. So while both approaches in itself are very interesting, I think a combination of them would be the most successful one, both technically and both commercially. I don't think any company would introduce a self-driving or autonomous system that is reliant on just one system. At least in the near future, I think a combination, a synergized approach towards both camera-based data capturing and a sensor fusion approach would be the answer.
Dr. Nadir, I hope you are still here with us.
Yes, I am. I am with you. Sorry, I had to go and I live in an area that we invented the cellular phone, but we have less reception in probably places in the middle of Pakistan. It's crazy that. But anyway, I appreciate that. We'll hopefully we'll see that that technologies will be integrated, and I agree with him on that. Yeah, thank you. I'm waiting for my question number one.
I think I already answered that. Yeah, for now, the plan is to go back because the company that I was working with, I will have to rejoin them. So I'll be rejoining them. And what I hope is that I will be able to continue the research that I was doing.
That Affyief is not at all interested in the institution of marriage, Dr. Nadir.
Okay, let's continue with Affyief. So Affyief, I got to know that you know multiple languages. Urdu, definitely we would be knowing that because we are Pakistanis, and English, obviously. But German and Chinese specifically, I find it really hard to understand. So how did you learn these languages, and how professional you are at speaking these languages, and how did these languages help you internationally? Like staying in Germany, I believe like over there, English is not so common. It's always German. So how did you learn these languages?
Okay, first of all, I would like to declare right now that I'm not a polyglot. I don't speak these languages at the level that I would like to. I can hold basic conversation, of course, in both of these languages, but I'm currently working on improving both of them. Coming over to your question, how I came to know about them, of course, German is being a child growing up here, being exposed to it at a very small age. That is one of the biggest, I think, motivations to learn German. However, your insinuation that most of the people here do not speak English is grossly, I think, away from the reality. I would agree with you. Up till 2010, I still remember, even in Frankfurt, being a very international cosmopolitan city, we used to find a lot of people who could not speak English or who would just not opt to speak in English despite being able to converse in it or despite being able to know it. But right now, the on-ground reality is that even being in Bavaria, which they are traditionally very proud folk, very proud of their Bavarian culture, and speaking a dialect which is a bit more difficult than the rest of Germany, still here you go you go and you'll find people everywhere studying, speaking English quite fluently and quite happy to converse with you in English. I'll give you a small anecdote. A few months back, I think I was sitting at a bus stop, and a very old lady and a husband were sitting there, and we were waiting for the bus, and there's a new store that has opened up across the road. So they were talking about it, and I think because they couldn't read, because they must be like above 80 or 90 or something, quite old. So she asked me in English, she looked at me, and of course she observed that I was an expat, and she asked me English, which store is that? And I replied to her in German, das ist die ersten Automaten Bayern. That's the first automatic vending store. And she was very quick to reply that I can speak perfect English and we can converse in English. No need to talk to me in German. So that is the state on ground here. Most of the people are very well versed in English, and they are quite happy to talk to in German. But again, they are quite happy, and they quite appreciate if you learn their language. And just not language. Once you start learning language, you learn local culture, you learn local values, and you learn about the local cuisine and all of the stuff that the locals indulge in. So I think just learning the language is a wonderful gateway to the whole landscape of culture around you. Regarding Chinese, the first, I would say, exposure to Chinese was once I had to travel to China for a work trip. I think that was just after COVID in the end of 2022. And I started learning Chinese because since the start, I've always felt a need to converse to the locals in their language. What it does is it removes an initial curtain of hesitation between you if you even converse a little bit in their local language. So I started learning Chinese online. And when I went to China and I was able to speak to the locals, some sentences in the language, I could sense that such a wonderful way of conversing, and they would open them up to so much, sharing so much more about them, and in their eagerness to know so much more about me. So that was the journey to start learning Chinese. However, I would say that Hanzi, which is the written script, I know very, very less of it. I
But
can just
that's too
write and
difficult,
converse in
I
Pinyin, which
guess.
is, yeah.
Like, how do
Yeah,
you
it is
exactly
quite difficult.
remember?
It is quite
Yeah.
difficult.
Mm.
Yeah.
So regarding this,
There's a term like,
go ahead, please.
yeah.
Go ahead, please. You
There's a
can jump in.
term which, while I was studying languages, that there's a term called angelicization of languages. Like most of the European languages, either they are Germanic or Latin, you would see they have a very wide spread base on English terms, which are quite common. And once you study Chinese, you come to know that almost 0% of English words have made their ingress into Chinese. Even once you are living in Pakistan and you speak Urdu, you can see how many English words have become very mainstream in our language, in our
True.
everyday conversation. And most of the people who don't speak a large amount of English, or who are not very well conversed in English, while speaking Urdu, they speak a lot of tidbits in English, a lot of words in English. That's totally not the case in China. They have almost 0% English vocabulary ingress into the Chinese language, which is also a very fascinating thing, but which makes learning Chinese much more difficult also. While I won't fully agree with the fact that is again mistouted all over the world that everybody should learn Chinese, it is language of the future and China is going to take over the world and all that, that's not going to happen. Let's not be so cynical about it, but it's a wonderful language to learn, and I think that it would open a huge opportunity. Another thing I must mention here is that quite a great majority of the students here at my university at FAU are Chinese, and just the look on their face once I'm sitting next to them and suddenly I start speaking to them in Chinese, the look is worth millions, I would just say. So
I can
yeah, everybody
understand.
should learn quite a few languages.
I'm also learning German these days. So at first I find it really difficult, but now I'm loving it. I have on the app as well, and I'm taking one online course as well. So my brother is he's also residing in Germany. So why I said that over there people, do not speak English mostly. So what happened with them? His friend also went there, and then they were looking for an apartment for him. Like they were not able to find the studio apartment. Then they figured out one, and they went to meet that lady who owned that, and he all the entire meetup was done and everything. Then the lady asked them, like, do you guys speak German? And they were like, no. And she refused to give them apartment just because they don't know German. So I find it really funny. Like he shared this with me, and I was like, oh God. So they then managed to get some other apartment, but yeah, there could be these cases as well. So it's not 100% true that people over there do not speak English and all. Okay. Yeah.
I would certainly like to add to that. Apartment hunting is basically called a super sport in Germany. I think it is more difficult than the Olympics, but
True.
this is more of this is more of a supply and demand issue, because the demand is too high and the supply is too low. So it takes just the little bit of things for a landlord to refuse a tenant. It can be a million of things that landlords use just as an excuse of not giving the apartment. In your brother's case, it was the German language, but I have heard so silly reasons that you cannot just imagine.
You
And they're
heard one
literally,
of
if you put up your apartment for rent, you'll find like hundreds of tenants who want to take it. So it's more of a supply and demand issue.
exactly. I got to know this, like I wasn't having this exposure. Then when I got to know, I was like, oh God, how difficult life is outside. But yeah. Okay, we are over time, but I'm really loving this entire session. So, I would like to know one more thing, like, what are your future goals, Affyief? Like, what exactly, like, after once you are done with this research work and then maybe coming back to Pakistan and joining the same job, what else do you have in your mind which you think like you will be achieving maybe in next 5 years or next maybe 3 years?
Right. So the next 5 years, I would say, would be, I think it is a too small time frame to make any long-term assertions. But at least for the next 5 years, I would definitely be involved in the same research projects that I'm currently working on. mainly focused on both e-powertrain and focused on autonomous driving. I am also, I think I mentioned it to Rida a bit, that I would be leaving for the States shortly. I would be working, there's an eHawks project that is run by the University of Kansas that is focused on the same autonomous driving and electrical powertrain subjects. So I would be collaborating on that and working on that. So at least for the next 5 years, I would be focusing on the same research areas predominantly. What my goals would be to at least make my research viable, both scientifically, technically, and commercially. Make some research papers out of it, maybe present it at some of the few well-certified conferences and so. So most of the goals in the near future are at least highly focused on the technical side of the research.
I hope that you come back to Pakistan and add on a little skill over here, because I think we as a nation, we have people like you, but then again, we're lagging behind in this particular field. So, and we do understand that, you know, in the leading nations of today, this field is one of the most leading career pathways, and it is bringing a lot to their economy. So probably people like you are a hope for us as well, and we really hope and pray that you come back, add on a little to our economy, maybe keep visiting US and Germany as well, but
Do not leave Pakistan.
stay in connection with Pakistan as well.
One thing I
Yeah.
would definitely like to build up on what you just said and what you said in the extreme start of the podcast about your jobs being replaced by AI. I think all of us needs to be a little bit understanding about this, that which are the jobs that are potentially going to be replaced by AI. Once we look at it a bit holistically, you'll say that all of the lower skilled jobs are going to be replaced by AI. All of your maybe drivers, all of your waiters or waitresses, like all of the jobs that are currently at a lower spectrum of skill, they are at a danger of being replaced by AI first. So even people in highly developed first world, they have an upcoming requirement of upskilling themselves very fast, get out of the lower skill spectrum job arena so that they are safe. So what our country, the biggest hurdle for our country right now is upskilling, because not only are we very low on the skill level, I would say our non-skilled workforce is huge. Our low-skilled workforce is huge, and our skilled workforce is not at par with the skilled workforces of the developed world. So all of these skilled segments of our society, of our country, whether they be skilled or not, have to work a lot. So that is, I think, not just it's a huge problem that needs to be addressed at like all levels of society. I would say not just the underskilled or non-skilled workers are at risk. In any third world country, even the skilled people are at risk because they need to upskill themselves, because the level of upskilling in the West or the developed world is going at a tremendous pace. So it's very important for everybody to upskill. And if I can contribute to that in any level, I think that would be an honor.
Hi, this is Jacques. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast and sharing. Wanted to ask you a few questions, and just to add to what Rita was saying and everybody asking you, stay in Pakistan. I think the future it's gonna be a collaborative, platform anyway. I don't think people are gonna be in one location specifically, and the way AI is collaborating, right? And all the data centers are gonna be connecting with each other. I think people gotta try to do the same thing, and we need more connection and collaboration than ever before in order to have a faster growth, I think. Hence, this is our mission, to have this platform and create this dynamic between, people like you that contribute to science and also connecting with other folks like Dr. Nader and many other folks that we are, gathering as a community. I want to ask you a maybe non-technical question.
Of course.
Where you are in your life right now, and since you're an scientist engineer, I'm going to ask you, what would you say the percentage from 0 to 100? Is it exactly where you were expecting to be in your life right now? geographically, educational, financial, emotional, on all levels, mental, is that exactly where you're supposed to be?
I think that's a very deeply philosophical and introspective question, and it might be a bit difficult to give an exact percentage. But I would say, if I'm just about to wing it, I would say maybe in the I would say less than 50%, because there is such a huge arena that I see that is yet to be studied, yet to be understood, yet to be worked on. Also in the amount of work, if I try to quantify the amount of work I have already done versus the amount of work I think I still have to do, I would still classify my position at being in the lower 50%, in the minority percentage of my life, because I think the main reason I would attribute this to is the frontier is constantly expanding, because we currently don't know where the 100% is. That's why I think I cannot exactly quantify it as an exact percentage, because the 100% is ever evolving, ever increasing, and always going to much bigger and better things. And I think that holds for quite the majority of us.
Thank you for being sincere on this. No,
Don't you think it's basic human nature that we are just never satisfied with what we have?
Well, there's a lot more dynamic, but think about this. I was the other day talking to somebody who's doing research in space, actually. And, the same way you're trying to figure out enhancing the driving capability of a car to make sure it could predict what's ahead, right? Practically, right? He's doing that in space. Somebody else is doing it in the ocean. And, and you see how challenging it is just doing it for a car with all the knowledge, sensor technology and everything we're talking about. That's why I was trying to figure out, maybe one day we need to figure out how to do this for our own life, so we could predict better what are the obstacles that are coming ahead, right? And kind of have that autonomous driving capability, in our own life. Of course, it's challenging, but that's why I was asking, because, I know as an engineer, a lot of people plan ahead. Everything is planned and everything else. And, life is not always predictable, and you do the best you can, and then you end up. But it's just good question for me to always understand, like when you were a child, what were you thinking? What triggered you? You wanted to be going in this field? Was it something else? I don't know if the team asked you already. When you were very young, was it really this is what you wanted to do? Did the family allow you to, or were they pushing you to become a doctor, lawyer, something else? And is it? I don't know if anybody asked you about this earlier.
I think we did talk a bit about this, and if you'd like, I would like to build up on it. That yeah, definitely. There's always family compulsions also, and I would say it outright here, yeah, because yeah, they did wanted me to become a doctor, because most of the professionals in our family are medical doctors, which is a fabulous field, I would say outright. But as we discussed earlier, the child's ability to make Frankenstein things out of the toys is given, disassemble them, take them apart, build them again together, make a different thing. I do remember even as a little child, I did make a bit of Frankenstein cars out of tins and different metals and different things, and just a jackstrap thing made out of wires and motors and batteries and some tires and stuff. So yeah, I think that all is an indication towards a person's knack, towards his predisposition, and that can be called a very, very simpler form of an engineer, a child that tinkers with stuff and make things. That is a very simplistic personification of what an engineer does professionally. Of course, once we are children, we have a very grande view of our future, that when I come up, I'm going to make the transformer. I'll make the Transformers movies comes to life, and I'll make a car that would transform into Optimus Prime and back into a car. So of course, as a child, you have very grand futures. But I think even as a child, my predisposition was towards being an engineer, and engineering in general, making things, technical things, out of the resources I had. and optimizing it to be as best as it could.
Thank you
This
for
might
the sharing it. Yeah.
this might sound so dumb to share. but, Affyief is busy building, himself as or seeing himself as a future mechatronics, whereas we were busy destroying toy cars and trying to pull out the motor out of it and try to make a fan. That's what we used to do as a child. But Affyief has his goals already set up, so it's really great. So that just the thought came up in my mind that what exactly we used to do with all these automatic toy cars and all. So
See, an engineer from the childhood days, because I still remember I have three brothers and none of them ever wanted to destroy his car and explore the nuts and the electronics inside. But my sister, my youngest sister, she was their enemy. She always used to destruct their toys and do stuff with them. And today she's an engineer. And so now we see that even that was practical and fruitful for her to do. So yeah, hopefully we'll have more girls into this field as well.
Of course,
definitely.
one thing, our childhood room or our childhood home essentially used to be a graveyard of expensive toys. Whenever we would get a toy from any relative and our own parents, its fate was sealed. In a few days, it was going to be taken apart. And secondly, women in STEM is a huge thing here also. I think even in the developed world, a lot of work is being done on integrating women in STEMs, attracting more women towards STEM fields. And I think the potential of the work that has to be done in the third world, especially Pakistan, is, I think, overwhelming. We are so behind in this fact, so little percentage of women are currently joining this field. We need to work so much more in this field. A lot more women need to come into STEM fields.
Definitely.
Yeah, and this is part of our mission too. Hence,
Yeah.
you see these ladies leading the efforts here.
That's a very commendable mission, and I would say you guys are doing a great task.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I ask you
Okay.
one last question? Then I'm going to put myself on
course.
mute. So when we look back, most of the scientists, and I think Dr. Nada calls it poly, they were not only in one specific discipline, they, like you hear of Zakaria, right? Zakaria Razi, they're like either chemistry, astronomer, philosophy. They study multidisciplines, and then I think they make them, I think that makes them much stronger when they look at problems, right? They look at it from so many different directions. You didn't share, I think, much about your appetite in other disciplines or that are not necessarily engineering. Can you share some of that about yourself? Are you into poetry?
Okay.
Are you into what other things that you do to stimulate your mind? I guess that's what other disciplines, philosophy, I don't know, so many other things.
That's a very great question, and I think very important also. While I was researching for one thing just a while back, another anecdote, and how are these algorithms like AlphaGo and AlphaStar, and how do they become so good against human competitors or against human players? How are they able to become so good so quickly? And one of the not a main reason, but one of the auxiliary reasons identified was that they don't need to take a break. The human player, a superhuman chess player, or at least at all the global player in Go, what humans essentially need is to take a break, to give a rest to their mind, go pursue some other activities, spend their time in hobbies and stuff, which is essentially something that makes us human, which the algorithms don't have to do. So I think very valid question, and a very important aspect of being human is that we don't just like doing hobbies. We need to have hobbies, we need to have other interests, and we need to do other activities in order to stimulate our brain. We need to take a break to be able to perform at our best. So building up on that, I think my interests have evolved a lot over the time. And essentially, I think they are not the same what they were like 10, 20 years ago. Right now, one of the fact I was uh, hoping that you would not ask is which AI books I read, because I almost don't read AI books at all. I always read fiction or non-fiction or history. I had almost zero, I would say, recommendations if you would have asked me about AI or machine learning books, because I don't read them. I always read, I think the current book I'm reading is the People's History of the United States. Before that, I was reading Shogun, which is the very famous Japanese novel by James Clavell. Before that, I was reading Wolf Totem, which is a novel on the Chinese Inner Mongolia region. Again, a very highly recommended, very nice, very famous novel. So yeah, one of the things I do is read highly non-technical things. Then, which is, I think, reading is a fascinating hobby which everybody should do. Other than that, I have been into, at least while I was in Pakistan, I have been into horse riding. I have been doing tent pegging. That is a hobby that I have not been able to continue since I have come here. But I used to hike a lot every weekend. I used to go trekking. I used to do camping. So these are one of my main pursuits once I'm not doing the technical stuff with my life. If I need to relax, then it's mostly non-technical reading. And if I feel like I'm being active, then it's usually hiking, trekking, or camping.
What kind of music do you listen to?
Actually, I think Rida and Anika would be quite into it. I used to listen to a lot of Coke Studio once it was the rave in Pakistan. I'm a great
Yeah,
fan of them. And I think they have not released a
really
new
good, Jack.
season
You
last year.
must listen to it as well.
Yeah. We eagerly used to wait for the release of Coke Studio, and then there was no stopping. Like as soon as the new, episode was
Yeah,
released.
I think I've been a very loyal follower of them since their start in almost like 2006, 2007. And even I think they have not released a version last year, but still once I want to relax a bit or something, I'll just put on a playlist of one of the seasons and that will just play on regularly. I think, yeah, the majority of music that I listen to is Coke Studio.
Yeah.
What genre is that?
It is a mix. It is mostly remixes of folk, of classical, even of jazz, of rap. So they have a bit of everything, and it's a very nice mashup and amalgamation of most of the genres.
Nice. Good. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you're really a pleasant person to listen to and speak to. Professor, I think you had something you wanted to say.
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much for your time. I just wanted to say, please listen to Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd once in a while. They're the classics, but that's okay.
I have noted them down. I know.
Yes,
I have
Jacques knows what I'm talking about.
I went to Pink Floyd's concert actually. Here's
Oh
Roger
my
Waters.
God,
It was like crazy.
Yeah.
No, Professor Nada is correct. When you go to this concert, is like some of this music, and maybe the one you mentioned is, I mean, you see people for like, 17, 18 years old, all the way to maybe 90. There's no, I mean, it's all generations, and it's like, timeless, really, some of the things that they have. And the whole performance, it was like amazing. I mean, the wall, you've heard of the wall, right? They built the wall right there, and then they had the little airplane crash into the wall inside the concert. It was the craziest experience, visually and with audio. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. Go ahead, Anika.
Yeah, Affyief, we have taken a lot of your time. Sorry about that. We promised to do a half-hour session, but the conversation was really interesting. We never wanted to stop, and even just now, But I would let you go right now. Just one advice, like what exactly do you want to give? Any advice related to anything to our listeners, which can actually motivate them in, or which can actually like keep them motivated about towards the life goals they are planning to achieve, or they are on that path. So anything positive that you want to share?
I think one of the things once I was a student was it's the US Army slogan that I printed it out and I pasted it in front of my study or work desk. It's a very simple line. It says, "Be all that you can be." It is the US Army slogan. You can Google it up. Be all that you can be. I think that is a very simple line that everybody should follow in their life. If they think they can be something, they can be. They just have to imagine the hardest level that of work they'll have to put in, and then they have to work harder than that. It's very simple. You just have to put in the hard work. All of us can be what all we wish to be. So I think that's what I would recommend to everybody. Be all what you can be.
Such a great advice, I guess. And yeah, definitely, I
Yes,
think with this we can also add as the description of our podcast. Jack Affyief has given us some motivational quote.
yeah, we need to license that, I think, from the US. No, but
Okay.
it is actually, yeah, it is exactly. I mean, it's a simple thing to say, but I think the key is what you said, the hard work. You have to do, there's no shortcut. People thinking that you could shortcut here and there doesn't happen. You have to put the work in, and I think the key for that is you really have to enjoy it. So this is why it goes back to all kind of summarizing all our conversations, going back to your beginning of your story, your journey. It has to, the sooner a child can find out what they really enjoy, right? What they're passionate about,
Exactly.
what they want to spend time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's Rita's sister destroying toys or, Anika building fan or whatever they do. It's what is it that you're going to enjoy doing, and if that allows you to keep going, to keep pushing forward, and in this marathon of life, and finally you're going to get to your destination, as long as you have that, I think, stored and remembered in your inner GPS in your mind, where you end up.
Definitely.
That was hence
Definitely.
why I was asking you percentage-wise, where are you exactly in your life, and what was that you entered in your GPS when you were a child, what you wanted to do, where you wanted to be. And there's a reason where we are today in our life is because, somebody plugged it in, hopefully yourself. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing. Really inspiring. Hopefully we could also put you in touch with some of our other scholars that are doing similar or complementary kind of research, and we could create that, also give back. Part of our mission is to give back to the community and give back for, allocating your time and giving to our community. So really grateful to have you here, and it was a pleasure just listening to your journey.
Well, likewise, it was a pleasure to be here, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity and appreciate the good work that all of you are putting in. And best of luck and best wishes to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
And
much.
hopefully we could have you back.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yes.
I would love to
Alright.
be back here again.
Sounds good. Sounds good.